Hey guys, just a super quick video. Just want to demonstrate an example of a reading, and when I say an example of a reading, this is a blind test. So part of the testing that I've been doing over the last few weeks has just been about blind testing. And what do I mean about blind testing, or what is a blind test in perspective of the software? A blind test is this. I have a verified natal date, time and location for a particular individual, and then that individual provides me with some biographical information. Biographical information being, tell me about some things that have been that you've experienced in the past, real milestones in your life that have left a lasting impression. And when I put this out for beta testing, one of you guys came back with a substantial list of life events. And what I've done, and what you can see on the screen here, is a list of these life events. And for the sake of privacy for this particular person, I haven't listed who he is or his date of birth or anything like that, his natal details. And for each one of these 18 events, the guy that sent this over to me actually went into some detail into some of these. And I'm going to go through and show you what the blind reading did through the AI interpretation. And we'll read through that together. And once we're done, just below here, I'm going to come back to the screen. I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to show you what the actual event was. And let's see how well the AI interpretation actually did. So this is the guy's natal. I've got progressions switched off at the moment for the sake of just simplifying what we see on the screen here. The natal has confirmed that he himself has confirmed the natal is well rectified. He himself is seems to be quite skilled in astrology in his own right. He's a student of mainly Zane. Zane's interpretation is more biased towards progressions, and he does a really good job of rationalizing and justifying why progressions are more important than just transits to natal on their own. But for the moment, my software has been built on purely on transit to natal. I have got progressions in there, as I've described in my previous videos. The decomposition does include progressions, and the AI interpretation has been instructed to make notes on, make comments on progressions and transits to progressions, with the progressions backdrop where appropriate. But at this point, the skill set for my AI has been built around classical or traditional astrology with elements of modern astrology at this point, and other modules will be added later on, as I've previously described, and one of which will be Zane. So I've got a bunch of Zane's work, and I'll be continuing my research on Zane and how I will go about including that in a second module for the software. So, but for now, let's just get down to a particular reading. Now, just coming back to this screen here, this is an event. So what I did was, in my software, I just said, give me this date here, the 21st of January 1989, as our transit date. Literally just click on the AI interpretation and just see what happens. Now, I've actually done this reading twice. And I've done it twice because I'd made some changes to the decomposition panel that I mentioned in my last video, and I reran the AI interpretation, again blind, with no biographical information. What happened to this guy on this day, the events that were surrounding it are all not included at all in this reading. So I originally did this reading some time ago, back on the 15th of May. You guys may not be able to read that font, but it says the 15th of May, and then I've just done one today, this morning on the 2nd of June. So let's just cut through to this original one. Let's see how we go for time. So we'll click on View, and we can scroll down and read through this. So I'm going to read through part of this with you, and we may compare and contrast this to the reading I did this morning, but they read the same. Some of the verbiage, some of the terminology that the AI interpreter has managed to use is subtly different, but the The message is still the same, but let's see how we go for time. Okay, tier 1, this is our foreground. So these are where the, according to classical astrology doctrine, as documented from a variety of different authors, one of which is Robert Hand, describes where our foreground needs to be. He doesn't actually use foreground as a terminology. It's a terminology that I've adopted for the purposes of this software. But under that doctrine of traditional or classical astrology, we can gravitate the things that maybe I'll use the wrong words there. Well, I can use the things that hold more gravity for a reading up front, and that's where the tiers come in. So we have tier 1, just scrolling down here, tier 2, mid-ground, and then we have a tier 3, other background information or planetary occurrences that still have a bearing. But let's have a look at our foreground here. Neptune, exact opposition to natal sun, the sect light dissolves. So that's our headline for this particular reading. Neptune opposes your natal sun within 6 minutes of arc. Exactitude arrives in 3 days. Just note this 3 days, guys, here. Nothing to do with Bible 3 days, 3 nights, but has a bearing on this particular natal, this 3 days. So it will arrive in 3 days. So it's not quite exact at this point, but we have Neptune, an extremely slow-moving, transiting planet to natal, is grinding its way into this opposition, and it's 3 days off being exact. So in terms of a tier 1 foreground, it certainly has earned its place. This is the single tightest astronomical contact in the chart today. It strikes the sect light in a diurnal chart, the planet governing vitality, identity, and conscious selfhood. Neptune has been crossing this degree for years. The backdrop opened in March 1986 and closes in December 1991. Here we are in 1989. We're just past that halfway point in this backdrop. But the current window is the moment of peak intensity. Under classical framework, this contact will be read through Saturn as Capricorn's classic ruler. Saturn constraints pressing on the sun. The modern Neptune register adds disillusion, confusion, and the loss of boundary to this Saturn compression. What does this actually mean? In traditional astrology, the outers beyond Saturn are not part and parcel of the classic or traditional astrology, but for the purposes of being, I guess, somewhat well-rounded in this software, we've included Neptune. You'll see here it does talk about where things stand in terms of classical astrology, and it will provide a reading through the lens of classical astrology. So continuing on, physical exhaustion and illness resistant to diagnosis. Neptune contacts to the sun on the 12th house chart frequently manifests somatically. The heart and general vitality under Neptunian pressure, fatigue that doesn't respond to rest, a sense of depletion that runs deeper in than circumstances would explain, or medical condition where nothing clear shows up on tests, identity crisis or spiritual disorientation. The sun governs who you are. Neptune dissolves form. You may feel like you don't know yourself clearly right now, or that the self that you've been presenting no longer fits. This can be disorientating, or if you're inclined towards spiritual practice, it can open genuine mystical experience. Retreat, withdrawal, or institutional contact. Just remember these things, guys. Identity crisis, physical exhaustion or illness resistant to diagnosis, retreat, withdrawal, or institutional contact. The 12th house governs hospitals, places of confinement, monasteries, prisons. Neptune's opposition may pull you into the 12th house spaces, either literally, hospital stay, retreat, or a period of isolation, or metaphorically, withdrawing from public life to process something privately. The progressed sun trines natal Neptune to within arc seconds of exactitude in the same window, peak the 24th of January, the same date that we read earlier. An extraordinary convergence. The transit is the acute crisis. The progression is the slow inner unfolding of the same Neptunian theme, the dissolution of identity, dissolving identity, or vitality is not arriving suddenly from the outside. It has been quietly maturing beneath daily life for the last 2 years and peaks now. This is an identity shift happening with at two time scales simultaneously. The fast transit services it. The slow progression describes how long it's been preparing. It's worth asking, are you exhausted in a way that rest doesn't touch? Is there something about how you present yourself or what you thought your purpose was that feels unclear, ungraspable right now? Have there been any medical consultations, retreats, or periods of isolation within recent weeks? So I'm not going to continue to read through all of this. I'm going to scroll all the way down to the dialogic invitation, and I'm going to just put. The YouTube channel still hasn't let me upgrade my account, so I'm stuck with a 15-minute video only, and I'm already at 11 minutes. So I want to get to a critical point. I want you guys to pause the video, screenshot this, and read it. Then come back to the video after you've read this, because this next part is going to tie this reading to what actually happened to the natal, to this guy. So pause the video and then come back. Okay, I assume you guys did actually pause the video. So let's open up and see what happened to this guy on the 21st of January 1989 as he described it in this blind test. This is something that came directly out of his email. Let's jack this up a little bit so it's a bit easier to read. Okay, January 21st, at the beginning, he was at the beginning of military service. It was mandatory at the time. Now, you and I out there from other nations would call that national service. It's a compulsory thing where when you reach a certain age, you enter military service, and unless you have some ability to get out of that, you're in. It's compulsory. 2 or 3 days after its beginning, I became seriously ill with acute appendicitis if I hadn't had surgery. And then he followed up. I sent him the email and a short video, just sort of, and I shared this reading with him. He came back with another email and he said, regarding the experience on the 21st of January 1989, it was amazing how well your software described what happened to me during that period. As I said above, in my way of being over time, there was and perhaps still is an opposition to authority and old structures. Blah, 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 blah. This is where I'm going to cut through to. The state organs to the hierarchy in the army where orders are executed, not discussed. It probably didn't take 2 days of military service before for my body to give out. Then hospitalisation for about 3 weeks. Congratulations again. So just coming back to this reading again. Remember the 3 days I mentioned before. His body didn't last two or 3 days after the 21st of January, and it gave up when the exact Neptune opposition kicked in. So coming down here, physical exhaustion, illness, restraint, resistant to diagnosis, identity crisis and spiritual disorientation, retreat, withdrawal, or institutional contact. Institutional contact. He went into national service. It was not a choice. Identity crisis. Whatever he was doing before, he can now no longer do, because now the army or whatever military service he entered into now owns him for that period. Physical exhaustion. Well, he got appendicitis, and sure enough, 12th house, he went to a hospital. So I'm at 14 minutes and 15 seconds, guys. I'm going to wrap the video up here. This was just a short demonstration of one of many blind studies that I've done using the software, and it seems to be doing a very good job of identifying what's going on as above, so below. In any case, guys, keep trucking. I'll continue populating the YouTube channel with a few more of these sorts of blind studies, just so you guys can get an idea. Thanks, guys. Bye.